Oh my goodness, it's the first postseason or off-season edition of The Install with Greg Cosell of NFL Films. Greg, you made it through another NFL season. You survived the Super Bowl in Las Vegas. It's good to see you, my friend.
Buck, great to see you. Yeah, Super Bowl was actually, the first half was just kind of slow, and the second half and overtime being in the stands, super compelling. I mean,
Yes.
maybe not the best football we've ever seen, but super compelling being in the stands. It was electric. You could feel it. It was palpable.
Well, and I'm always curious because you said you were in the stands, not the press box, right?
No, I was in the stands.
Right. So like for me, as you said, the game started slowly, but it was a slow build. It was tight
It
the
was a
entire
slow build.
way. It
Yeah.
was tense the entire time. And
Yep.
even as there were some miscues, some sloppy football, which we'll get to over the course of this thing, it's as impressed as I have been with Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, because you can't stop them at the end, Greg, no matter
Well,
what it is that you seem to do.
yeah, I mean, I was in the stands because Taylor didn't have an extra seat in the box, so I was forced to sit in the stands, of course. But you know, it's really interesting because, in a sense, it was very much like the way the Chiefs season played out because they were not explosive offensively. I mean, this takes nothing away from Mahomes, but they were not explosive offensively, which they really haven't been all season. Um, they won games in a sense as a team, and the focus is always Mahomes. And yes, he made plays in those critical moments, as he almost always does. But it was really an interesting season for them. Yes, they have the great quarterback, but that was not really how they won games. The defense was outstanding, and I know Steve Spagnuolo just got a an extension to his contract,
Mhm.
well deserved. I mean, I know him well. I consider him a friend, so I'm very happy for him. But I mean, at some point, I think people have to start recognizing that Steve Spagnuolo is one of the best defensive coaches we've seen in the last 25 years. I
Yes.
mean, this guy's been phenomenal, and he's won different ways with different personnel. And of course, the run game became a factor for them. Not that it was a big factor in the Super Bowl, but it was certainly a factor in their season. So, in many ways, the Super Bowl mirrored what their season was. And look, when you play really good opponents, which of course it was two really good teams in the Super Bowl, you're not necessarily going to march up and down the field. So it does come down to individual isolated plays. Coaches don't necessarily coach like that, as you know, where they think, oh, well, we'll just make a play in the third quarter and win. But games like that are very tense, very tight, where, hey, somewhere along the line, something has to happen. Mahomes he's a master at that.
Yeah, absolutely. It is it has to be frustrating though for a great many reasons, Greg, to be Kyle Shanahan, to have
Ah,
the kind of game plan that they did. And there were a couple of miscues, certainly the muffed punt, the missed extra
that
point.
was the killer.
All of these things kind of, compile over it, and they take the Chiefs to overtime. Or rather, the Chiefs take the Niners to overtime based on the
Right.
way that game had played out through regulation. And I guess I would like to start with that Chiefs offense, Greg, because as you said, it mirrored a lot of what their season was. Kelsey, not a huge impact in the first half, was able to exploit some matchups in the second half. Really not able to get Pacheco going either. And I just
No.
thought it was an otherworldly effort, given how their postseason had gone earlier and what the Niners had looked like in the line of scrimmage against Detroit, for example, where they were really getting moved off the ball, that the Niners elevated themselves. I don't know if they could have played better defense. Maybe you don't throw the house at him on 3rd and 6 on that Rishi Rice completion late in the game that Mahomes picked apart the blitz on. But for the most part, I wonder what you thought of the Niners' game plan, because I really thought they stepped their game up in a huge way.
Well, and again, without knowing how they structured everything they did, it wasn't as so much a game plan as players playing better.
Mhm.
The Chiefs started the game. First play of the game was a gap scheme run at a shotgun. And Bosa, he attacked upfield immediately and he defeated the center who kind of pulled a little bit, Humphrey, his block. Hargrave, from his zero technique alignment, could not be effectively down blocked by the left guard Allegretti. I think the front caught the Chiefs. That was a front you don't often see from the 49ers. So the first play of the game, they showed a front that was probably not what was expected. And then they just won some individual matchups. We've talked about the, run defense several times, Buck, over the last number of years. And, yes, fronts matter. And I think that the 49ers did a good job with some multiple front looks. But at the end of the day, you still have to defeat blocks. They had not done that well in their 2 previous playoff games, and they did that very effectively in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Fred Warner just flying around like a man possessed
Oh
out
God,
there.
yeah.
It was a fun game to see play out, and the Chiefs obviously celebrating their Super Bowl victory parade today. With the Chiefs defense was the story of, maybe not the one story of their season, Greg, but a huge reason as to why they had
Yes.
the level of success that they did, why they were still able to win the division despite some struggles, why they advanced, or a big reason about why they advanced. And as you mentioned, Spagnuolo getting a contract extension earlier today. Chris Jones is just such a menace. And I know there was some miscommunication on the blocking where, Purdy looked like he had, I think it was Jennings in the back of the end zone, if I remember correctly.
Are you talking about that final play?
Yes, the final play where he has Jennings in the back of the end zone, and it's just immediately Chris Jones, pressure in his face. Looked like the guard and tackle might have had an issue, or guard and center
They
might
did.
have had an issue
They had a breakdown.
communicating.
I thought watching the tape and looking at that play over and over, I thought it was the right guard Burford who was responsible for Jones, and Burford had to play 44 snaps because the starting right guard Feliciano, got injured a number of times in the game.
Right.
But one of the things that I believed would be an issue for the 49ers in the game was the right side of their O-line. Now, I didn't know Feliciano would get hurt, but Feliciano at right guard and Colton McKivitz at right tackle, neither one is particularly good in pass protection, particularly one-on-one protection. And there were times throughout the game that showed up. So, that turned out to be an issue. But that play was a shame because he did have Jennings on the other side, which if Purdy had time to drop back and was protected on the other side, the corner, and I forget which corner it was, fell down, and Ayuk was actually wide open, and Purdy would have seen him. But it was just, what was interesting about the game on both sides, the Niners had a few assignment mistakes that, the guys that made them, they're just never going to forget those, regardless of what happens in their career going forward. The old expression, the losses are tougher than the high of the wins, and those are the kinds of things those guys will never forget.
Yeah, unless you're Brett Veach, the Chiefs GM up there saying, so this is what a Chiefs down season looks like today at
Yeah,
the parade.
yeah.
It is something that the rest of the league, much less the AFC, is, as I sit here in Nashville coming back from Brian Callahan press conference, going to be a tough thing to figure out, given that Mahomes is only 28 years old and, as he said, is just getting started. Niners have a ton of questions in the offseason, Greg, including 2 of the players that you just mentioned with Ayuk and Jennings, both as Jennings is a restricted free agent, Ayuk an unrestricted free agent.
Is Ayuk unrestricted?
Ayuk is unrestricted. He's messaging
sure?
on Instagram and.
Well, he was a first-round pick, and I thought this was his 4th year, and I thought I could be wrong. I don't follow all that. Maybe you know more than I do, but I thought that first-round picks get 5-year deals, but I could be wrong.
They did pick up the 5th-year option on him, but he is, I believe, he is at 25 years old. This is the final year of his rookie deal. We spent time talking about him.
So the year that just ended was the final year?
Correct. This was the 5th-year option year for Ayuk. And as we go through this, the Niners are a running. Everybody has a pass game and a running game, but they are an offense that is predicated off their ability to run the football. They are super creative with how they deploy their skill position players. And Ayuk had another 1,000-yard season, and I think he was north of 70 targets. North of 70
Ayuk, I think, had 75 receptions for over 1,300 yards. I mean, that's pretty good deal.
Yeah, and so within the Niners offense, they are able to make put players in position to succeed. But him within their system, especially with Debo missing some time down the stretch, an availability thing, it would be tough to let a guy like that hit free agency, even though you're going to see him make $20 million plus a year.
Yeah, and you know what? They can afford to do that for this reason. Brock Purdy's only going into his third year. They don't have to deal with Purdy this offseason.
Yeah,
So
it's kind of
they
like
can.
Burrow's contract, right? Where he's not making his extension money yet. He's still on his rookie deal, which is how they're going to figure out a way to keep T. Higgins and Jamar Chase at a decent number without wrecking their cap. But with all that to say, Greg, Purdy, he didn't have the best postseason, even though he still made it to the Super Bowl. I wonder what you thought of Purdy over the course of the season and the level of execution that he was able to provide for them, that got them to that point. He didn't lose them the game by any stretch of the imagination, but as they try and figure out everything else around him and who's going to come out of the NFC, again, with a lot of questions on that side of the bracket moving forward into the foreseeable future, Brock Purdy within this system is operating about as well as anybody could, yes?
Oh, for sure. I mean, Brock Purdy is not a problem at all.
Right.
I mean, I know he became a topic of conversation all season for many different reasons, most of which were absurd. I mean, he executes that offense at a really high level. He makes really good throws. He's got some second reaction movement ability. He can make some plays off script, as we saw against the Lions in the second half. He's not the issue at all. This is an explosive offense. I mean, there was one stretch at one point this season where they averaged their winning margin was really high in games. They score a lot of points. Brock Purdy is a really good player. We're just, we've reached a point now, unfortunately, where we do not see quarterbacks as being really good players unless they make a lot of off-script runaround plays.
Yeah.
And Purdy, while he's capable of that, that's clearly not his game. So I think that there's a sense that, well, he's just executing a system, and a lot of people can do that. Nothing could be further from the truth. I've seen every single play of Brock Purdy since he's been with the 49ers, and you really have to understand what you're looking at and know what he's asked to do and see the kinds of throws he makes and how he sees things really, really quickly, so instinctively and intuitively to understand how good a player he is.
No, he's clearly gifted. I just think that people associate gifted with Josh Allen, right? Overwhelming physical abilities, overwhelming, arm strength, all of this stuff. But his gift is playing so efficiently, so well within the structure, and I think that can,
which, by the way, is a gift.
Go overlooked.
That's a gift. Yeah, it gets overlooked. You're exactly right. So Purdy is certainly not the problem. And I thought in the Super Bowl, I thought he had a tough stretch in the third quarter, right, a little bit. But overall, I thought he played well. I mean, look, Buck, if I had said to you that, hey, Patrick Mahomes would turn the ball over more than Brock Purdy in the Super Bowl, you probably would have thought the Niners would win the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that, it's a good transition to Mahomes because, Greg, we've talked about how well he's been playing within structure in the last couple of years. Despite not having the best skill position talent that he's played with this season, overcoming a variety of different things. Problem solving with Andy Reid, who I'm very happy to see is not leaving the league anytime soon based on, I know you can't ask these guys immediately after the Super Bowl what they're thinking about their futures, but it would be tough to walk away given what they have and that a really young defense that stands to get better over the course of time. Mahomes, though, in this game, they didn't have a ton of explosive plays. I think they had 3 plays over 20 yards total, including that 52-yard.
Which, by the way, that ball should never have been thrown. It should have been intercepted by Tayshaun Gibson, who somehow lost total awareness of both the receiver and the ball. But, I think Mahomes is at the point in his career where we know about the physical traits. We don't need to discuss those. But I think he's just, become such a smart player, much better before the snap of the ball, increasing understanding of game situations and what's required. Much quicker to understand that if something's taken away, I'm going to throw the shorter ball or the check down. Just playing really smart and aware football, in addition to the fact that he can certainly make special plays anytime.
Yeah, and it is scary for the rest of the league that he's just now in his prime and he seems to be becoming the most well-rounded version of him that we've seen beyond just the incredible off-script plays.
I mean, I'll give you an example, and this is, the kind of play that probably nobody even thought of, but I know what the Chiefs like to do on offense, and I know how they get to it. And there was just a play very early in the game and I'm just trying to, remember it and look at my notes because yeah, it was the first play of the third possession. Okay. They ran the Chiefs, their flood concept. It's a staple. Okay. What the flood concept is for people listening is it's a 3-level concept to one side of the field. There's a vertical route, an intermediate route, and a flat route. 99.9% of the time, the vertical route is just to lift the corner and get him out of there. Okay. 99% of the time, the ball gets thrown to the intermediate route, which is almost always Kelsey. It's one way they get the ball to Kelsey. So they called that play to start the third possession. Well, the 49ers, obviously scouting, and doing their homework, they were aware of it. And 2 defenders in zone, they were playing cover 3, the Niners, but 2 defenders, the flat defender and the hook defender to that side, both got eyes on Kelsey. So they took it away immediately. So Mahomes, instead of waiting and seeing what would happen, he immediately knew that the flat defender had gotten enough depth to take away Kelsey, and he simply just threw it immediately to Pacheco in the flat, and they gained 7 yards. First play of the drive, you'll take 7 yards every time.
Yeah.
But it was just the kind of play that shows you, hey, Mahomes, smart, aware. Let's not wait. Let's not be silly. Let's not be stupid. Hey, they're taking away what we really wanted. I'm going to immediately get it to Pacheco, because if you wait an extra beat or two, then everybody rallies up, and a 7-yard gain becomes a 2-yard gain.
Right.
And 2nd and 8 is a lot different than 2nd and 3. So, just a simple play. And it's funny, I noticed it during the game sitting in the stands because I could see the route. I was sitting relatively high up and I could see the route concept develop. And I just said to myself, oh, that's flood. And I saw that the Niners took it away, and Mahomes just boom, simple stuff like that just shows the intelligent growth.
Yeah, it's awesome to watch as an objective football fan. If you're in the AFC, you're probably in a little bit of hell because the Patriots have been dominating the conference for a long time, and here comes Patrick Mahomes with his own little bit of dynasty. So, Greg, that is a closed book on the 2023 NFL season.
Hard to believe, Buck. Hard to believe another season. My 44th one is over.
44th one. Here I am, exhausted, 7 years in, and Greg's just grinding the tape.
I'm already watching college guys, Buck. I'm already doing that.
Which is perfect because the league does not give us time to breathe. The combine is literally 2 weeks away from today.
No, so I'll be getting to the combine. I guess 2 weeks from yesterday.
That's right. I will pull into Indianapolis 2 weeks from today, and
you probably drive. I would imagine from where you are.
Yeah. It's under 4 if traffic in Louisville is right. So it's a real quick trip, a great trip, and I'm looking forward to being up there with you, my friend, and looking forward to getting into a lot of draft talk, a lot of prospect talk over the course of the last couple of weeks. We really appreciate the audience, and not like we're going anywhere. This continues through the off season. But just thank you guys so much for hanging out with us all football season. Greg appreciates it, and so do I. And as always, Greg, thank you on behalf of me, because you make me a lot smarter and make me sound like I know what I'm talking about when I do 3 hours of talk radio on a regular basis.
And I know that's hard, right?
You're damn right. You're damn right. It takes a village. It takes a village. Absolutely. Buddy, we'll do it again next Wednesday. We'll be talking draft. I can't wait.
All right. Thanks.